Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. It's Wednesday, it's April 22nd. This will be our chart lesson for today. Um, Nice trend up. It really started, um, I would say the trend really started here. We had this big move up, which kind of kick-started things. Um, so we really trended upwards from 5 o'clock on, but I would say the trend really started around 9 o'clock. And, it didn't go a long ways. It looked like it was just going to be a range day, but look how long it took prices to work through that area right there. Lots of resistance in that area. Really tough area to get through. You can see we sold off there, um, and we sold off there previously. Right in this area, just under 2100 has been tough, and I would suspect that it might continue to be. We'll just have to see. But you can see right there it was really tough, and there's actually should be. I forgot to put it on here. Back. There's It's just a little small range right here, and you got to be really careful with that kind of range. You can see that there. Um, Definitely a little tight range. We had a couple of breaks lower here, chance to get long. Um, but anyway, let's back. Actually, a couple other things. It's a two-tiered channel, and once we started going higher here, when we shot straight on through that EMA and straight through that trend line and pulled back, that's your sign. Hey, be looking for a possible reversal here. Um, but once we started going higher there, you want to measure this first move, and you figure we're going to get something similar. And notice how it gives you really a perfect move up to the top of this range right here as well. Um, Generally, when that kind of stuff matches up, that's telling you something. Uh, we probably would have made that target if we hadn't found this resistance across here, and we really struggled to get through there. And that's just up near the overnight highs, and we finally got on through there. Another thing you would have looked for is on this leg. Once we broke out of here and started going higher, look for a measured move there, and you see that's about exactly what we got. So always use those measured legs, measured moves. They help you a lot. They're not always 100%, but sometimes it's scary how accurate they are. But it always gives you a target to shoot for as long as the trend's still in play. And then when the trend, then when you get your signals that the trend is ending, then don't worry about it so much anymore. So, but it will help you keep you in the trade a lot of times. So, but let's talk about the trades. You had to really kind of wait till the open to get a decent setup today. There's a trade right here, and I'll show you why I like this. I still made it green, but I like this trade uh, because this is just a little trading range, and we had a little double bottom, and that's a little failed break lower, and it turns up, and it goes right through that EMA, and it pulls back, goes up, pulls back again, goes up, pulls back again. So we tested that EMA several times, and then it breaks higher. The only reason I didn't make it blue was the signal bar. This is your signal bar. It's not very good. Plus, there's some congestion stacked up there. What it is, people were hesitant to go long here because it's at the highs, but there was too much buying for it to go lower there. Everybody was buying it off the EMA, and the closer you could get in to the near the EMA, the better, most likely. So it's not a very good setup, and there's some reasons to consider skipping it. So I only marked it in green. It is kind of a breakout pullback long as well from this area right across here. And so there's some reasons to consider that trade, but there's some reasons to consider skipping it uh, just as well. So, but once it took off, really nice. Once it broke higher there, they had the shorts all had to exit, and it took off. Really nice trade. Uh, there's a little double top here, but this was really the first close outside, and it tried to go up once, tried to go up twice, pulled back, tried to go up again, and it just couldn't. And look at it, comes down, it gets under the EMA, and it looks like this is going to maybe be a chance to go long again here. But you should have had your trend line drawn right across there. And when it turned down again, um, big bearish bar. I like that one. I guarantee a lot of people got trapped trying to get long right in there. And I'd be looking for a measured leg here at a minimum. There's your first leg. And if you measure down off that, that puts prices down to this level right here. We would actually want a little lower than that. And of course, now you got that actually confirms your trend line off those first couple of swings there as well. You can see that. And then prices pull back again. I went back and forth about whether or not to make this one green or not because it's a first entry. But it gives you a really nice bearish bar. You've got the trend line working down. It's turning down right off that trend line. And lately, a lot of these have worked. And so I felt like it was probably a pretty good spot. What I really thought too, the other reason I like this trade is this looks like a range day. Look how prices were above the EMA, below the EMA, above the EMA, below, above, below, above. And generally when you see that, that's a good sign of a range day. So I really thought we were headed back down to these lows. And obviously a lot of other people did too. And look at it go. It just takes off. And there's really a two-tiered channel here. Earlier I just had the two lines when I posted this morning. But there's two tiers there. And notice how we got, we were below the midline, but we hadn't come back down to this one. So when you got this failed second entry long right there in that big bearish bar, I like trying to get in it one more time. You had to be really quick to get in that. You may not have gotten filled on that trade with a stop and a limit. It wouldn't come back far. So you may or may not have gotten in that trade, but you might have had a little different setup. Who knows? And I'll be honest with you, it was really tempting to go long right here, but we weren't to the lows yet. We were coming off this. You figure we're going back to the other side, but a lot of times it'll just work its way across. And so you didn't really have enough information to have this line. There's no way to get it off the highs. There's no way to get it down here. It's just, so you wouldn't have had that trend line there. And so, if you move that trend line, the only thing going forward is a good bit away from the EMA, and last time we were that far away, it snaps back, and so it may snap back again, and of course it does. But that was tempting, but I just think it was a little bit too risky. I think you had to really think before you took that trade. And but if you took it, I can understand why. But I'm not even gonna mark it green. I think it's just a little too risky. And of course, once we started going higher, we're looking for this measured move. And where does it put it? Right to the top, right where that, if you copy this line and move it up, it's right there. So that kind of gave me an idea that, hey, there's a good chance we may get a reversal here. And then when it shot right through the EMA like that, it looked like it's going to turn down like it should off the EMA, but it shoots right on through, tries to go short once, pulls back. And normally I would probably say you need a really good bar here, but I like going short here just because we haven't come back to the EMA really since we broke higher and touched it yet. And the fact that you could get in with a very low risk because it's a little bitty bar. It's a small bar. So I like that one. Just using a stop, and it got just enough to get out, and then it reverses. So a lot of times it's hard to reverse from one direction to another, and a lot of times it's not smart because you're emotionally tied to one side. But if you're recognizing that you might be expecting a reversal here and you're already scalped out, this is one you probably wouldn't hold any runners, but you're looking for it to go lower anyway because this is the first break of this two-tier channel. First close outside, so you've got to figure that we're probably going to try a retest. So you're looking for a short anyway, and this is just a double top, and that's another reason to take that one. That's why another reason I didn't make it green. But when it reversed here, I wouldn't go long above this bar, but when this bar closed right on its high, kind of bullish, I like that. It was pretty obvious then that, hey, we may make another leg up. And we would have looked for a measured leg. It actually went a little further like we showed earlier. But this was a great trade. There was actually a couple of them. Both of these you would have gotten runners, and this one you would have gotten a runner. And so those three trades alone would have made you some pretty good money today. Then it comes up here, and we get this resistance right here near the top, and there's a maybe short here. And I say maybe, and I drew it in green because we've been way away from the EMA, so we're past time to go. But we tried to go up once, we pulled back, we tried to go up again. So you got that little two tries to try to go higher that just couldn't do anything. And so I was looking for a reason. I really wanted to enter here, but I talked myself out. I was saying, hey, you better wait because generally you want to see it fail a couple of times. So if you waited on this one, it would have worked. If you waited, even if you went short here, if you kept your stop 2 ticks above the signal bar, which is here, you would have survived. 1 tick would have got you. 2 ticks, you would have survived. But I don't know if you'd have held on there once it went lower. And it did go higher there. Your actual entry would have been right in here. But you know, once you saw these bars forming, you probably would have got scared out of that trade. I think the smart thing to do would have been exit. But when it tried to go up again, you know, even though it's not per the rules of failed second entry long, it's like one, and it's really like a double top as well. And it's like a double test rule. So all of that kind of comes into play. It's not perfect, but it's close enough to where if you want to be aggressive, you probably figure prices are coming back to the EMA, you might take it. So I circled it in green. I went back and forth about it. It's really aggressive. I went back and forth about whether or not I should circle that one. But I'll just be honest, I wanted to take it, so I'll leave it at that. And then we bounce here, and then you can kind of see, you know, when it held up there again, it made me a little nervous, and you've really got a little range then, and again, you might have even exited right there. Uh, but when this one broke higher and turned down again, you know, I wouldn't enter short here, but I would hang on because now you got a confirmed little range right there. So it breaks lower. It's tempting to go long right there, but I still wasn't convinced that we wouldn't go lower yet. You know, even though you got matching lows here, we did break through, so there's a chance you get a breakout pullback short. But it shot up pretty quickly, and then it pulls back, and you get this little bullish reversal type bar. So I like going long above it, and it's at the low of the range. You got room to get out before you get to the top, and it got exactly what you needed, and it fails. It pulls back, breaks lower, and of course it bounces right off the midline and fails, and you get a bullish bar. So I like going long there. You don't want to go long here because it's right into the resistance. See if you can get a breakout pullback kind of entry, and then you kind of get another little congestion trading range area, and it drops below. And guess what? That's also a failed second entry short. Notice that new low, pullback first entry, pullback second entry, and all those matching bars. You know that thing's going to snap back, even though it's not a very pretty bar. It's a failed second entry short, and it takes off. And again, you know, it's one of those that hesitates a minute. And this is why, you know, people ask me, well, if it doesn't take right off, should I get out? It's just a hard call. I mean, it's tempting to exit this thing, but as long as that's holding us support, that's a good sign. I wouldn't exit. Then you make a little higher low, even though you didn't really make a higher high, but it closed a little higher. And then you same thing, a little higher low. Those are signals that you know, even though we're not breaking higher, those are signals that look how every one of those bars makes a higher low. That's a sign that the buyers are they're gaining momentum. So you might want to hang on to that one. Just see what happens. It's worth taking, you know, losing a couple of ticks over to see, because if it goes higher, you know it's probably headed up here, because you would have this line here now, and you would drag it up, and you had the measured move to kind of confirm that, hey, that's kind of where you're looking for prices to go up there. Several different things. So for that matter, like I said, even though it's not a beautiful signal bar, the odds were that we were probably going higher. And if you use this for your measured move, you really almost had a perfect measured move. Measure that again. You actually really can measure it to right there because that's the high, and then there's the low. And I think it's a perfect measured move, really, to be honest. Yeah, we might have went a tick higher. We got maybe a tick more. And then we actually tried to go higher once more. And we didn't quite, it's hard to say exactly where that line is, but I pulled it down to that high when that was the last high of the day. It's hard to say if it's really up here or really right there. I think if you measure this, this is pretty close right here. So, um, but anyway, I like that long. And then you get a failed second entry short, new high, pull, or you're coming up, first entry, pull back second entry. It fails, you get in, but again, it kind of gets hung up. I think you actually would have gotten out before that, though. Let me just double check that. It's such a little bitty bar, low risk. You get in at 2101.50, and so you'd have got out. You got just enough between there and there. It ended up pushing on up, but if it hadn't have, I probably would have exited this thing when it kept going sideways. I would have given up on it and waited for another entry and taken a tick or so. But you got just enough to get out right there, and then that gets you into the 2 o'clock hour, and I didn't mark anything out. So, but I like this one because it's basically a failed second entry short, and it's a new high pullback first entry, pullback second entry, and it is a second entry long. And the biggest thing I liked about it, it makes a double bottom really right, kind of right across there, but it bounces right off the EMA. It's the first close really outside of this channel working up, and you get in such a low risk, maybe 2 or 3 ticks at the most, and so you're not risking a whole lot. It's almost a 1-for-1 kind of risk if you're just going for a scalp, and so I like that one. And that pretty much was it for today. So I mean, like I said, early on I was looking at it possibly two-tiered going down. I had the line working off here, and we really confirmed it. But you can see when prices reverse, they shot right through there. That's telling you that something's either changed or this is not correct. And so by that time, once it turned here, you would have drawn this line and then found one off the top, and then it kind of fits right across there. And there's that gap again. Look at that gap for that midline. See, and you couldn't have, how do you know that's going to be a midline the rest of the day? And it's obvious it is, but that gap is right there. I wish I knew how to explain that. And if anybody can explain it, feel free to send me an email. Usually I understand why. I've been able to learn and teach myself why most of these things happen. But man, I see that over and over and over. So when you see a gap like that between those bars, and inevitably, I'll get somebody to say, where's their gap? Well, notice that there's no overlap in those bars. In other words, one closes on its low and the next one opens on its high, and it keeps going lower. And it doesn't back up, and they don't overlap at all. This one did this, well, it didn't really overlap. See, it has a little tick down right there. Let me find one. Here's one, but it backed up, and see right here, it closed on its high, and then it opened on its low, but it backed up. So there's overlap there. It's just one tick, but there's overlap, and that's the norm. They almost always fill those little gaps, and if they don't fill them, they come back pretty soon. And look what happened when it bounced. It came back just enough to fill that gap, and then it turns down again. And you'll see that over and over and over. Generally, when there's a gap like that, there's some kind of support resistance line there. It may be horizontal and it could be angled, but you will see it. And actually look, there it is right there too, right where the midline comes through there again. And that's not coincidence, trust me. And it doesn't fit, well, I'll be dang, how to manage that. It doesn't fit exactly right, but that may be because my line is not drawn exactly right. If you lower that just a little maybe, or or whatever, but it's still right there in that same area. Um, it's still like it gaps over it for whatever reason. I can't explain why it happens, but I see it over and over, and inevitably there will always be some kind of um, support resistance coming through there. And I've heard them described as um, like thin spots, and maybe there's a lack of orders there. But why was it here and then it raised up to here later? I mean that it still doesn't explain why it happened. So, and I didn't mean to dwell on that, but it's just an interesting thing that I've contemplated over and uh, over time, trying to figure out why it happens and what it's there for and what causes it. But just one of those mysteries that I have not been able to quite put my finger on it yet. And may never. It doesn't really matter. I just know it's there. I don't really care, to be honest. I mean, I'm just curiosity is why I'd like to know. But it doesn't matter. We don't have to know why. We just know that if we see it, it kind of confirms that, hey, your lines are probably right. Um, so just keep that in mind. But anyway, that's pretty much it for today. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.